Yeah. And I burn that channel. Sinister grifters with a snake oil grin, voracious virtue signalers cashing in. False PIs, they're fixing the game, pointing fingers, but they're all the same. Innocent creators, moms with a cause, digging through the chaos, exposing the flaws. We're hunting for clues, untwisting the lies. Who's driving this shit show straight to demise? Convertibles roaring, cliffs in sight, like Thelma and Louise on a forever ride. They sail into YouTube fame, the crash is in sight. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Or it'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. Bark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Bark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. It's in the dust. That'll burn their channels. What's in the dust? The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. The dust. We're all on the ride, no brakes, no trust. Popularity is the spark that'll burn their channels in the dust. Dust.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corner, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old Barry tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies. The truth is calling, and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True crime jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is hot. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine. True crime's calling, and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This true crime jewel's got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the proof. So hit that play and join the true crime journey with Jewels of Thought and her gemstone family.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you guys are all doing well today. It is April the 9th, 2025, and there is a reason that we learned the word JANGA. It's so that we could describe exactly what is happening in the courtroom of one Lori Vallow. It is a calamity, all right? Now, there's no fireworks, right? There's no brouhaha. It has not yet reduced itself to bedlam, but we're getting there. All right. Takes a little time for frustration to grow, especially from a woman who managed to live her entire life just manipulating men to give her money and pay for the things that she needed and wanted. She just learned to manipulate. That is her skill set. So she is very comfortable pretending to be something that she's not. And I suspect that right now, in this day and this time, that Lori, for the first time in her life, is realizing, no, actually, I can't pretend to be anything I want. I do think that she is struggling tremendously trying to pretend to be an attorney. There were a few cracks yesterday. It almost got away from her. She didn't raise her voice. Well, one time she raised her voice. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't act out, but the snark is coming, right? It's emerging slowly. I said the time frame was next week. I think next week she melts down. Oh, wow. There's a huge flock of Canadian geese that just landed in the river. So pretty. Wish y'all could see it. Okay. So next week, I think we're going to see some real fireworks coming out of Lori. Her available store of coping skills and techniques will be used up. I actually was really surprised to see like a wrinkle in her facade. I was surprised to see that on day 2. That was much earlier than I thought it would be. I thought it would take her a week to get there, but it was there. It was small, but it was definitely there. And again, my prediction is next week, she's going to have a full-blown meltdown. She's going to lose it. And we'll be there to see it when it happens. Now then, this is going to be a very short video because it is the most boring, absolute slow trial I've ever seen in my life. Do y'all agree? Is there anybody in here who's actually watching it? Didn't get a notification. That's okay. People, I'm not normally live this time of day, so it's fine. Hey, Scotty too hottie. So it is very slow. If you're watching it, you know what I'm talking about. Lori is simply, in my estimation, my guess, Lori is just asking questions. There is no rhyme or reason. Oh my God, KJ Mack. What's wrong with her? She is simply asking questions that have no rhyme or reason. There seems to be zero goal. Like she has no idea what the hell she's doing. C. Cooper, good to see you. What do you guys think? I got through the fireman. The one who looks like, who made the fried chicken? The Colonel? Asking to ask. Filling time. That is all she's doing. She's filling up time, and it is disastrous. The judge is over it already. The witnesses are, let's say they are in non-compliance, shall we? The witnesses are not going to answer. Like they are streamlining their answers to, if they can get away with yes or no, that's what they're doing. They're not helping her. They are not saying a single, they're not going to like help clarify. This is very, very uncomfortable to watch. Very uncomfortable to watch. But we are watching, you guys. We are being troopers, and we are gonna make it through this thing. She's a disaster. She is, in fact, a JANGA. All right, so we're going to play a little bit of this. Hold on a minute. There we go. Let's talk about stippling. Cooper. The guy's like, no stippling. What are you talking about? She said, oh, well, isn't it in the ME report? He's no stippling. It's been terrible. What else? What do you think, KJ? Hey, Cinnamon, hot. Good to see you. Perhaps she thinks if she drags it out as long as possible, God will come down and scoop her up into grandiosity. KJ, I think it's safe to say that Lori's days of grandeur are finished. She's done. Her goose is cooked. Yeah, no, this is terrible. This is worse than I imagined. And I do think that I like to tell the truth. I like to have honest, authentic reactions. And sometimes that doesn't go over very well with subscribers because we all have our favorites. But please hear me out, okay? Don't get mad at me, all right? Don't just get mad at me and leave. Hear me out. I felt a little irritated with Peter Tragus, the lawyer, you know. And he is one of my don't miss, okay? I'm a member, I'm a supporter of his channel. I love Scott Reich. So these and Emily. So these are my three real attorneys, professional attorneys that I go listen to. I'm feeling irritated with Peter. I want to shake him and say, Peter Tragus, hang on a minute, buddy. You're falling into the delusion. This woman is not a celebrity. This woman is not famous because she has special skills and knowledge. This woman is demonic, Peter. All right? Try to remember that. He's like, oh, well, this is not a dumb woman. She is smart. And the work she's doing so far, it's not bad. And I'm like, okay, Peter, stop. Get it together, buddy. Get it together. Shake yourself out of this delusion. Put photographs on the wall of all the people that Lori has killed. Maybe that'll help. Her daughter, Tylee. Every mother's basic instinct is to protect your children, to fight to the death for your children. Am I right or wrong? Okay, well, Lori doesn't have that, Peter. That thing that makes us human. Lori didn't have it because she's not human. She allowed and perhaps even participated in the death of her sweet daughter, her son who trusted them, an amazing father who not only provided for Lori and for the children, who took Colby under his wing and Tylee. He was literally paying the cell phone bill of every single person in Lori's family. Her mom, her dad, her brother. It's bizarre. It's bizarre. So I suspect that Joe Ryan was the first casualty, or maybe not even the first casualty. Maybe Lolly, the little sister, maybe Lolly, I guess it would have been her older sister. Lolly I think, was the first casualty of Alec and Lori. So if you count Lolly, you count Joe Ryan, Tammy Daybell, Charles Vallow, Tylee, and JJ. Hey, Peter Tragus, shake yourself out of it, buddy. She is not pretty smart. That this woman is voracious. This woman will destroy anything that gets in her path. Anything, including herself. And that's what we're seeing here. We're seeing the ultimate destruction of Lori the person. Up until this trial, she's sort of been a kind of an enigma, right? For those people that don't know the family, she's been an enigma. We had a little peek into her personality through the podcast that were done, and she's just comes off as this sort of bimbo who's using God and religiosity as a pathway to the golden egg, right? Is that a fair characterization? But now we're seeing Lori, the person, and you can see she is unsure of herself. She is afraid. She is dumb. No, Peter. Okay, Peter, hang in there, buddy. Okay. I'm a licensed psychologist. I do testing for a living. This is not a woman who's brilliant. She's not smart. I promise you, because a smart person would not say, hey, I'll be my own attorney and say what I want to say. Lori, the reason that all your other attorneys have refused to say in the courtroom what you want them to say is because you have dumb ideas. You're stupid, Lori. Without your sex appeal, you don't have the ability to manipulate men. I mean, you loaded that jury up with men, but I'm going to tell you something. These men are looking at you and they're thinking, this is a bitter, jaded woman. No, Peter, she is not smart. Okay, who agrees with me? Is Lori smart? Is she a smart woman? Or do you agree with Lawyer Guno that Lori's smart? I'm going to wait because I got frustrated with him. No, she isn't smart. If she was smart, she would recognize as she's talking to real attorneys and she's telling them, say this, do this. This is what I want my defense to do. And they're all looking at her, shaking their head. No, Lori, you're going to get the electric chair, Lori. We're past that, Lori. She's dangerous. Absolutely dangerous. And so is a shark. A shark is dangerous, but they are not discerning. Sharks are machines. They're not thinking. They're just, if they're hungry, they eat. If they want sex, they have sex, and that's it. And that's Lori. Lori is not smart. She is self-obsessed and thinks that she is running testimonies. This has so far been incredible. If you have not been watching this, it is horrible, right? Yep, absolutely horrible. Judy Ron did an excellent preview of her second day of trial. I haven't been watching Judy Ron. Okay, so now then, let's peek in here and kind of watch a little bit of this in action. Okay, this is before she starts questioning, and like everybody starts yawning and getting out snacks because she's saying nothing. She's been sitting at the damn table and hadn't said a word.
Is it possible that if there was a wound to the chest, that doing compressions on that could cause other damage?
Now, this is so weird. It seems nothing, but here's the problem. She sat there at the defense table, listening to the questioning and watching all this happening. She's had weeks, months to prepare for this. She's got attorneys sitting next to her. Why doesn't she know what her question is going to be? Peter Tragus, why doesn't she know what her question is going to be? And then the question she comes up with is simply to repeat what the previous questioning was with the prosecutor. There's no rhyme or reason here. She's simply yammering, blah, 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 blah. Watch this. It is not indicative of high IQ.
I suppose it's possible, but ultimately it doesn't matter. If the heart isn't beating, it's what you got to do. It's the appropriate treatment.
So would a common person who doesn't know how to do CPR maybe hesitate about pushing on a bullet wound?
Objection, speculation.
Sustain.
But you wouldn't.
Can you repeat the question?
You wouldn't hesitate to push on the bullet wound if the heart was stopped?
No, I wouldn't.
And you would have to assess if the heart was stopped in order to do that?
Yes, you would check a pulse like we did. We would, use our equipment like we did.
Okay.
Okay.
So the two wounds that you saw when you first got there, one was in the chest and one was where?
In the abdomen.
And why is she
On the right side or the
leaning
left side?
on the podium?
I would be speculating as to how the specific spot or area without actually maybe seeing documentation.
Okay. And can you tell me about I think there's a word for it, but I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was. The crunch.
When doing the chest compressions?
Correct.
I don't know if there was necessarily a certain word that I used, but you feel the sternum crack.
It's
I compare it
separate.
to, like I said before, cracking your knuckles.
And how much pressure would you have to apply to get the crack?
That could vary, like depending on who you're doing CPR on.
Like on an adult male?
I mean, it could still vary depending on, the strength of the person doing CPR also. It could vary depending on the size of that adult male also. So I've never seen like any science that might say you got to deliver this much pounds of force or anything.
Right,
So,
like 400 pounds of pressure or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Right, like
I'm just gonna
just
put
like
it
that,
on.
Lori.
Sorry.
Can't have you talk over one another. So he's finished his answer. Go ahead and answer your next question.
So there's no determined amount of pressure, correct?
Just hard and fast. When it comes to people doing CPR, for us, we're working as a team. We have equipment that can tell us if we're pushing hard enough. For a person without that equipment, just hard and fast.
Okay, that's fair. And then they don't always get the crack, right? It's not always going to happen.
If they're doing it forcefully enough, they would.
So if they didn't do it forcefully enough, it wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, thing
That
one.
is
It's
possible,
terrible.
yes.
But then when you come in, the professionals, and you apply the correct amount of force, then you would hear the crack.
Yes,
And is that possible that happened in this case?
it is possible.
Okay, no more questions.
All right, redirect.
Okay, where's my lip gloss? Okay. Okay, look how cute I am. Look how cute I am.
Someone else has already asked. It's so ridiculous. Already, you guys are tired of watching this, aren't you? It's the most boring thing I've ever seen in my life.
Does 911 have to regularly instruct people on how to perform CPR?
Yes, they do.
I don't know if I can answer that since I don't, do that since I'm not 911.
Oh, yeah, KJ.
Have you regularly
yeah.
heard while listening to
It's so icky.
the radio 911 instructing people on how to do CPR?
We have had PTI information when we're responding to a call that will tell us that they are either performing CPR or being instructed to.
I'm so sorry
you've
that happened.
Seen in the past
Scotty.
that 911 is prepared to handle individuals who may not know how to perform CPR.
Yes.
And that's to help try to keep the patient's blood moving while you're en route.
Correct.
You were asked a lot about trading off and other people doing compressions. At this scene with this patient, Charles Vallow, did you ever trade off and have someone else do the CPR compressions?
No.
You were the only one doing the CPR compressions.
He had been
Yes.
dead 40-something minutes.
Were you doing CPR while another paramedic or EMT was getting the heart monitor ready?
Yes.
So this timeline of however long it took them is in conjunction with you still performing CPR.
Yes.
We talked about Charles's shirt being cut. If photographs from the scene show his shirt still around his neck, would that indicate that it wasn't removed from him?
After the cutting?
Yeah, so if police, let me ask you this. When you guys are done and he's called deceased, do you put his clothing back on or modify him in any way?
No, we would just take our equipment that's necessary to take.
So if his shirt was still around his neck, then that's how it would have been left.
Correct.
You were asked about whether or not you should perform CPR on a person who has a gunshot wound. Is there any reason why a person with a gunshot wound would not need to have blood circulating through their body to bring oxygen versus some other type of injury?
No.
Is the whole point of CPR to make sure that blood is circulating to get oxygen to their brain
Yes.
so that they don't go brain dead?
Yes.
And you said that ultimately it wouldn't matter if you cause more injuries because if they're brain dead, who cares, right?
Correct.
In your assessment, did you feel that no one had performed CPR on Charles Vallow before you arrived?
I had felt that, and I do know in my testimony to Chandler PD, I had stated that, or it's probably in my testimony that it was not efficient or something to those lines. But I felt like no, it had not.
Okay, you felt like no, it had not been done.
Correct.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
Okay, that
All
had
right,
a
I see at
point,
least one
Lori.
juror question. We'll go on a sidebar. Please, if you're a juror and you have any additional questions, pass down your question to the basket.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm frustrated with the whole jury questions that they're not letting us hear them. But during the Jodi Arias trial, they let us listen, right? They let us hear the whole thing. I think maybe what they're doing this time, they take the question, then they have a discussion about the relevance of the question, if it's legally okay. And then if everybody agrees it's okay, then we get to hear it. But otherwise, no. But I thought that during the Jodi Arias case, that gave a lot of insight, like what the jury was thinking, how they were being affected by the testimony, right? So I wish they weren't doing it this way, but I respect, you know, of course you understand. I'm not an attorney. I don't know these things, but I do wish that we could hear the questions. Only because it provides a little insight. That's the only one. So, this poor judge, I think, has the patience of Job. He is over this. He is not happy entertaining this nonsense. And you can look at him and tell that he's disgusted with the whole situation. And the prosecutor is disgusted with the situation. So we are waiting for the next one. I believe it's Colonel Sanders. Oh, there's a smile. He's going, yeah, I'm just going to dream about this woman spending the rest of her life in prison with a cellmate named Bertha.
All right, so you're going to come on up here. Going to stand right here and be sworn in.
Thank you. Please raise your right hand. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
All right, you're going to come up this ramp over here and have a seat to my left.
It's Colonel Sanders. He's so handsome. Yeah, Lori. What does it feel like, Lori, to be surrounded by attractive, normal people, and there you sit in all of your demonic ugliness? I love that everybody here is like really attractive and well-dressed and living their best lives. And there's Lori, because you know she is hyper aware of how they all, you know, she hates this prosecutor just because the prosecutor is so beautiful. I promise you.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Sir, would you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Kent Keller. I'm a recently retired captain with Chandler Fire Department.
When did you retire?
April of 2022.
And how long did you work with the Chandler Fire Department?
32 years.
Yeah, I'm so
While you
sorry,
were
Scotty.
there,
It's
and
so
let's
hard.
talk about 2019. What were your duties? What was your rank?
My rank was captain. I was an engine captain, so a company officer. I was in charge of a 4-person crew. We basically respond for calls to service and the different functions of a.
Did those calls for service include medical calls?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any training in the area of, I guess, medical treatment yourself?
Yes, I am a paramedic. I went to paramedic school in 1991.
All right.
And can you
Now
tell
they're
us,
just going to go through.
is there or was there ongoing type of continuing training to be a
It's
paramedic?
just
Year
all to
picked,
determine that
and
he is,
as well as
you know,
updates as far
competent,
as
well-educated,
pharmacology
knows
or
what to do.
different treatment modalities. So yes, there's constant change.
And the difference between a paramedic and an EMT?
Well, an EMT is
Okay,
You
so
a
he's
patient when
doing
you enter a
very
scene?
little amount of
Yes.
testimony for the prosecution.
well
She comes in,
because
she asks her
it
questions,
would make the
she's
patient
done.
more
Well,
viable. If adequate CPR were given prior to our arrival, then you would hope that good CPR was given and that oxygenated blood was being pushed around the body, which would mean that make the patient more viable at that point.
When you go to a scene where you believe CPR is given, such as this one, was that one of the things, I guess, that was part of your decision-making as you are assessing this patient?
Yes.
Can you talk to us about when you entered this residence, what do you recall?
When I entered the residence, I recall thinking that the house seemed empty, like it was either being moved into or moved out of.
Like Lori said.
So there was no furniture or anything. We had a clear path to where the patient was.
A little FYI for those of you that may not have been watching this case, the reason that there is no furniture in the living room is because Lori installed mirrors on all the walls because she wanted to be able to dance and see herself. Please argue with me that this is not a narcissistic woman. She had a bed. She had a bedroom set. But Tylee was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. JJ sleeping on a mattress on the floor. No furniture in the living room, but lots of mirrors so that she could see herself as she's dancing.
And I remember thinking that there's very little in this room other than the patient.
Okay. Did you notice at any point some items around the patient?
The only thing I remember being around the patient was a baseball bat and a ball cap.
And do you recall at this point where those items were in relation to him?
Yes, I believe the baseball bat would have been on the patient's right and the ball cap above him somewhere in the room. I think the baseball bat was against the wall on his right.
Against the wall, not
do you recall ever seeing a bullet near the victim?
Once we started assessing, I did see a bullet, a spent round on the floor.
So that's sort of a little bit into you're in the scene.
Yes.
Wasn't something you initially recognized?
No, no.
Okay. While you're in there, was there any officers in the room with you or inside the house?
There was at least one officer still clearing the house, I believe, or at least going through the house. I only recall for sure one officer being interior.
Can you describe for us how...
Notice how she already has her list
the
of
patient,
questions.
how Charles was laying...
She already knows what she's going to ask.
When you first observed him.
Yes, ma'am. He was laying supine. He was laying on his back. As we entered, his head was towards us, so geographically, I think north.
Which tells me that Alex was standing between Charles and the door. That Charles was, if he had wanted to leave the house, he would have had to walk through Alex. It was I believe it was an ambush. That's only conjecture, only my opinionation, only my opinion. But just the location of the body, he was clearly not being the aggressor, right? The aggressor doesn't normally face the door. The aggressor has usually got the door behind them in some way. He wanted to leave the house, in my opinion.
That's how he was laying supine.
Do you recall anything about his arms or hands where they were?
I don't. To his sides. I don't recall, honestly.
Did you observe any injuries to this?
Virgin is not a word that has ever been used
he had,
to describe Lori Vallow.
Evidently a gunshot
Get it right,
wound
girl.
to his center chest. Hole in the shirt and a small amount of blood.
Did you recall or notice anything
KJ,
about
it's just crazy, isn't
where
it?
the blood was pooling from that shot to the chest?
Absolutely crazy.
At that time, I did not, because we have to.
Sounds like Ruby Frankie not taking care of her kids, right?
And
like, what is happening to these women?
So
Crazy.
he's a big guy. So he had a small amount of blood above his sternum.
I'm showing you Exhibit 3 that's previously been admitted. Does that look like?
If
All right, so I'm gonna,
Yes.
I
Kind
don't
of
want us to watch
there.
the whole
Around
testimony, but I
like
wanted
that
you to
division of what-
see how
more
this
blood, any blood under.
prosecutor,
Derived.
she knows exactly
Let's
what
go
each
back to
question
sort of
is gonna be.
blood, you guys.
Obviously, the more blood there is, the more the heart was beating or CPR was being done.
So both the lack of spreading on him is one indication that kind of made you question if CPR had been given,
Yes, ma'am.
and
Absolutely.
the lack of,
Okay, so the point here that I've rushed through is Charles Vallow is lying on his back, head up toward the ceiling, both arms down beside him, and his shirt, all of that, there's not a lot of blood spilling out of the gunshot wound. He's got a little bit, the little indentation below your Adam's apple. There's a little bit pooling in that little kind of bowl that it makes, that little indentation. And there is some blood on the shirt there, and then down by where the bullet in the abdomen, but it wasn't much. It wasn't like spreading like you would think, oh, he's been shot, it's a gunshot, you spill blood everywhere. I've said before in the talking about the Idaho 4 case that when the heart stops beating, the flow of blood stops. And depending on the size of the wound, the tissue itself is going to fold back in on itself. So you don't get a lot of extra blood. The blood is contained within the body for the most part, maybe a little bit, but for the most part. If it is a large gaping wound and the body is turned in such a way that gravity can work, then it will flow. But most of the time, the even fatal wounds are not really large wounds, and so they fold back in on themselves and sort of seal up the blood flow. And if the heart is not beating, there's no pressure within the body, right? So in the case of the Idaho 4, I had said with Ethan and Xana, there's some of the information that's been leaked. There's reason to believe that there was quite a bit of blood, which is really tragic because it suggests that if Dylan had made the phone call to 911 when she saw Koberger, perhaps one or both could have been saved. Perhaps, maybe, you don't know that, but maybe. But in the case of Charles Vallow, the gunshot was straight to the heart, which immediately stops the pressure that would have driven the blood out of the body, out of the wound. So you didn't get a lot of blood. He didn't even have a lot of blood underneath him. Again, with gunshots, they fold back in on themselves and seal, right? So this is not a difficult concept, right? Nobody's struggling to understand that. Okay, well, Lori seems to have a lot of trouble understanding it. So here we go with Lori. We've heard how great the prosecutor is, how well prepared. She has a point for each of these witnesses. Her list of questions are designed to elicit the point, and then she moves on.
Sternum the cartilage holding the sternum to the ribs breaks, it gives way. So, and that actually makes CPR much easier.
In this case, you came in, he
This is
wasn't
still the
breathing,
prosecutor. She's getting to
he
the
was
end.
pulseless, his pupils were dilated. The heart monitor said there was no activity, correct? When you looked at his back, you noticed both mottling, which meant that the blood wasn't moving through his body?
Yes, and
Low
modeling was on the front, he
oxygenate.
was the tip, so,
He was rolled.
yes,
And then you also noticed on the back the lividity of the blood pooling there.
yes.
When you, I guess, obtained all of that information, did you end life-saving measures?
Yes.
Who decides to end life-saving measures?
I do, as well as the rest of the crew. So Scott Cowden is also a paramedic, and he concurred. So then we call that in, and we cease life-saving function, or attempts rather.
When you cease life-saving,
Okay. So this is getting to the end of the prosecutor's questioning. One thing I do want to say, lividity, the blood pooling, right, at the lowest point. So if you're lying on your back, you'll have lividity on your backside. If you're lying on your right side, left side up in the air, the lividity will be on the right side closest to the floor, right? Or if you're lying on your stomach, lividity will be your stomach, your chest, whatever's closest to the floor. So it's just like a bruising, like a red, it's just blood that is seeping to the lowest point and collecting there. So it looks really kind of bright reddish, brown. Brown if it's been as much as 4 hours, it gets pretty dark. But the point of me saying this is this: lividity becomes apparent at around 1 hour after death. Right? This was a point of contention in the case of Christian Andriacchio, that he had lividity on his knees. And so the idea that Alex shot Charles and then immediately caused 911, that's just simply not possible. They responded within like 7 minutes or something of the phone call. And when they got there was already mottling, which is the tissue doesn't have proper oxygenation. There's mottling, and when they rolled him over, there's apparent lividity. They could see lividity starting. It was already there. You're looking at around an hour after death. Now, they do contend, the prosecutor does say that it was at least 40 minutes. But from the time that Alex shot Charles to the time that there was a 911 call, it was 40 minutes. That's the reason that Alex did not perform CPR. He was waiting to make sure that Charles was good and dead, that there would be no chance that he could be revived. It's pretty horrible.
Yes. One person, one male.
and
Again, my job in particular is to kind of get a larger overview of the scene. So I did notice a person talking with PD.
And when you observed this person, did you notice anything that he appeared to be injured in any way?
No.
That means
If
there
that
wasn't
same
very much
observ-
blood
Did you-
on
where
his
did you
shirt.
A dark blazer.
identify the defendant?
Mitchell?
Did you overhear her talking or saying anything?
I did overhear her talking with the police officers, or someone said something about not getting invited to a pool party because of the commotion at the house or something. So,
Isn't that crazy? Think about that. Charles is lying on her living room floor, shot through the heart, dead by her brother. Her brother is sitting on the curb, and this man walked away from this scene, no arrest, nothing. What was happening with this law enforcement? It's crazy. So Alec is sitting on the curb. Charles, bless his heart, is lying there dead. Tylee is standing there watching this circus, knowing full well that her mother orchestrated this. Her mom and her uncle did this. She's standing there watching all this, wondering, why isn't my mom being arrested? Why isn't my Uncle Alex being arrested? Does she have this kind of power? Is my mom really magical like she claims that she is? I mean, I can only imagine that Tylee must have been terrified. Terrified, yes, because her uncle had been shot, or I'm sorry, her stepfather had been shot by her uncle, but terrified looking at her mom thinking, wait a minute, you orchestrated this. Why aren't they responding? Why is everybody tiptoeing around you? Why are you and Uncle Alex being arrested? Think about it from the eyes of this young girl. And then Lori saying to the police officer, sorry, you didn't get an invitation to the pool party we're having this afternoon. And they had the party, folks. They had the party. Dead people come over. They literally did a pool party the day this man died. I cannot imagine the stress and terror that Tylee was living in, knowing her mother was crazy and everyone seemed to be oblivious to it. It's terrifying.
What? Did you have any formal interaction with her?
No.
When you
Unbelievable. I want to know if Lori was friends with these cops, or not all of them, obviously, but one or two of them. Did Lori have connections with people within the Gilbert police station? This is crazy. What would cause someone to make jokes about having a pool party and sorry you didn't get your invitation to my pool party this afternoon? When your husband, anyone, it doesn't even have to be your husband. Let's say there is an intruder that comes into your house. You don't know this intruder and your brother shoots them just to keep the family safe. Are you going to be laughing and making jokes and having fun? Or are you going to be terribly traumatized, horrified by what was happening? It's incredible. It is just like the lip gloss. Lori making these subtle, feminine, female type jokes. And why do guys fall for it? Peter Tragos, please hear me. This woman is not smart. You don't have to say she's smart and she's doing a good job. She is not smart, Mr. Tragos, not by a long shot. She is decidedly short-sighted and selfish. And she has an art, a tool of manipulation that she can use against men. Women watch it and roll their eyes and think, oh my God, you are absurd. But for some reason, men seem to they just seem to buy into the crap. A female law enforcement who's standing there and this woman says, oh, I'm sorry, you didn't get an invitation to my pool party this afternoon. This is going to really make it hard to have my pool party. Where's my lip gloss? I need my lip gloss. A female law enforcement is going to sit there and go, okay, lady, you're full of shit. Like, what's wrong with you? You're going down to the police station because something's wrong with you. That's not what is happening here. What's the real story here? Unbelievable, really, truly unbelievable.
sort of completed and left this scene, looking back and assessing it based upon your training, your experience, what you observed, and what was done to Mr. Vallow at the scene, would you agree that Charles Vallow was dead before you entered the house?
Yes.
Based upon your training, your experience, what you observed, and what was done to Mr. Vallow, would you agree that it was highly unlikely that anyone had performed CPR on Charles Vallow prior to fire arriving?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Okay, here we go with Lori. Y'all get ready. She's so smart. She knows what she's doing. Just get ready. Get ready to be dazzled. There you go, Lori. Get all your crap together. That means nothing. And why are you walking like that, Lori? You're not an attorney.
Captain Keller.
Yes.
Yes. That's my
You were
name.
first on the scene?
The police department was first, but yes, we were the first fire unit.
First fire on the scene.
Mhm.
And can you explain to us what staging is exactly? I'm not really sure.
Sure.
I know.
Staging.
I'm not really sure. I'm just a little girl. Where's my lip gloss? Hold on a minute, Judge. I need to get my lip gloss. Stop it. I can't. This is too much.
When there's some violent incident, the fire department, the firefighters don't have protective equipment for that sort of a scene. So we will go to a place where close to whatever the dispatched address is, that we would be a place of safety, but close, so that as soon as the scene is made safe by the police department, then we would enter into the scene.
Welcome,
So that
Maria.
would be like a couple houses away, or?
Could be a couple
Really?
houses,
Hey,
could
you know
be
what, Lori?
behind cover. In this
Huh?
case, it was a gunshot.
Lori, they already talked about this, and they even put a little map up for you. You already know the answers to all these questions, every single one of them. You are an idiot.
That was the way.
So you parked somewhere on the street, but
Yeah, Lori.
couple houses down from-
Yes, Lori, you've already said that. You just said, oh, so like a couple of houses away, and then he explains, and then you say this.
so you parked somewhere on the street, but a couple houses down from the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And then
Lori, and he's already repeated this, and he explained why they do that when there is a gunshot or a call for a gunshot wound. They stay back until they get the call from the police to say, hey, we've cleared the house. There's no more shooter here. You can come right in. Lori, all you're doing is you're writing down what the prosecutor is asking, and then you're getting up there asking exactly the same thing. That's not smart. That's being a parrot.
and part of that staging is you stay there until you get the all clear.
Yes, until the police department says that it's safe to enter the scene.
Okay. And you were wearing body cam that day?
No, we don't wear body
Oh,
cam.
you don't wear body cam?
No.
Okay. You were just that was a picture from you on the body cam.
Yeah.
On the one
On
of the
someone
police
else's
officers.
body cam.
Yes.
Okay.
Lori, he can't be on his own body cam, honey.
Do you use any instruments to obtain current body temperature? Do you
No.
guys have an instrument for that?
No.
No? Would that help you give a more approximate time of calling a time of death?
It wouldn't help me. I'm not trained to do that. So we don't
You're
have
asking the
that. It's
wrong
not
person,
within our
girl.
scope of practice to determine that.
It's not part of paramedics training?
Nope.
Okay.
Come on, Lori. She's reading.
You explained the modeling being patchy looking skin
Yes.
because of no oxygen to the skin. Is that correct?
Decreased, yes.
It is. That's what he
And
said.
so will that continue to increase? I don't really understand. Would you say modeling is complete or in progress? How does that work?
I would say in progress as as less and less tissue had oxygenation, I would say it continues to model.
So would you say it was in early progress or late
Oh my God,
progress?
he
How would
can't
you
say that.
How would you estimate that?
I could not say early or late, just
Lori,
modeling.
he's not a doctor. He's
This
not a
that modeling was
pathologist.
present
Yes, yes.
at that point. So how long would it take for modeling to become present? That's kind of my question.
I don't know how long.
So it could be like
Different for different people, I
People.
suppose.
so it could be a minute. 5
He
minutes?
said he doesn't know, Lori.
Hold on. Rephrase the question. I'll allow it, but make sure you let him answer before you ask your next question.
Okay. So it could be just a few minutes.
I'm sorry. Can I have some lip gloss? Excuse me, Judge. I need some more lip gloss, please. Okay. All right.
It's possibly.
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah, just
Okay.
stick with your answer because she is gonna.
And then lividity, you explained as a pooling of blood. The blood leaves the tissues and goes to the bottom. Is
Yep.
that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And you saw that as well?
yes.
And in your estimation, would that have happened soon? You know what oh, that's not a good question.
No, it's
Um,
not.
In your estimation, that had begun?
Yes.
Yes.
And was it advancing how far?
Well, an
Uh,
hour,
He
Lori.
had
It takes
lividity
an hour.
on the back of his torso,
So does lividity,
backs of his arms.
start immediately after the heart stops? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, but it can take almost an hour for it to become apparent.
I suppose it does.
Okay. And if you were on any kind of medication, would that affect that as well?
I
Oh
couldn't
my
say.
gosh, yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And what time of death did you document?
Every time of death.
I did not put time of death, but I put a time of treatment being ceased, and I don't recall what that time was. It's on that report.
And so a real attorney would then take the report to him and say, would it refresh your memory if you read your statement? But she is simply parroting the prosecutor.
And you had stated that you were listening to dispatch on the radio. Is that correct?
Yes.
So were you listening to the actual 911 operator speaking?
No.
Oh my God, why does
Whoever
it
is
matter?
calling, if you call on the phone to a 911 operator, they would give that information to a dispatcher who would then dispatch a call with the pertinent information.
Okay, so you were getting kind of updates as it went along?
No, you get the initial call, and then if it were pertinent for us, like the scene is secure, PD says the scene is secure, go in, then we would get that. PD would call dispatch, and
radio.
dispatch would then call us.
Okay, so were you aware at all that they had asked him to come outside?
No,
Okay.
Why does that matter? This is her
You just saw that he
defending
was
herself
outside, but
against
you didn't know
murder.
that the 911 operator had told him to come outside. Is that correct?
I did not know who he was or how he was involved in it when we
Okay.
arrived.
So on those dispatch updates, it wasn't saying like shooter is in-house or shooter is outside or anything like that? Okay, that wouldn't be,
Not to us.
That's what I'm
That
saying.
might be to the police department, but that's not something we would hear.
okay. In this case, Captain Keller, do you know for a fact that CPR had not been given?
I do not know for a fact.
And do you know for a fact that CPR had been given?
He did it.
I know for a fact that we gave CPR.
Prior to your coming in?
No.
No further questions?
That's what
All right, Rita.
Judge. I don't have any more questions. I just need to get back to my lip gloss, Judge. I'm sorry. I'm tired, Judge. I've been talking for 15 minutes. I think I need a break.
Direct.
Which do you see first, modeling or lividity? When the heart stops and the blood is no longer pumping.
Modeling.
Modeling
Okay.
starts
I would
first.
expect to see modeling first.
And you told us, I think on direct, that lividity is something that you see much later.
Yes. I would expect that, yes.
Have you treated patients before within a few minutes of their heart stopping?
Yes.
Do you see lividity in those people?
No.
Do you see modeling in those people?
No.
Nope.
You see skin conditions change in those people, gray or
Over 7 to
cooling,
12 minutes.
moist, moisture, but not modeling or
Modeling
lividity.
and lividity.
So you're not here to tell us how long it takes for those to form, right?
But I can tell you,
I don't know.
All you can tell us is that it's something that you see in patients who are deceased
Yes.
who have been deceased for quite some time.
and have been deceased long enough, whatever time period that is, for that to happen.
Right. Is an indication of
Secession of systems.
the patient no longer being a viable patient.
Right. It's secession of systems. The systems have all shut down. No more kidney function, no more liver function. Modeling begins. Lividity happening somewhere between. So it starts at dependent on the type of injury or state of disease that it is. It could start as early as 20 minutes in the case of injury where systems were torn open, like maybe the kidneys were damaged, or in this case, the heart. Could be as early as 20 minutes, but that would be very early. But usually by about 45 to 60 minutes after death, it is visibly discernible. Like you see it in progress. You can see the purple, red dots that then become more pronounced and more pronounced. So no, you don't see it in 15 minutes after death. You don't even see it really even 20 minutes. Lividity is a mark that death has long since happened, that this person's been dead for quite some time. All right, I'm going to move through here. Again, she is amazing prosecutor, doing a great job.
For instance, you would use epi.
Oh, okay.
Are you saying
We got a juror question.
basically? But if
When would you, just
We got a juror question. I forgot.
that's
Hold on.
To call a patient.
I was actually happy to hear this question.
Functioning.
And the
All right,
reason I
we
was
have some
happy to
juror-
hear this question is because it's definitely a question that is asked by a well-educated, knowledgeable person, right? So when I heard this question, I was like, thank you. At least there's someone on the jury that has the sufficient knowledge to call Lori on her BS. So here is the juror's question. Come on. So they're discussing the question, trying to decide if it's okay to ask. Come on, folks. They're going to ask it any second. Let's ask the question, folks. Come on. Maybe I was wrong about that drink of water. I thought that was a good marker. There we go.
All right, we have some juror questions.
There we go. Got it.
Was there any attempt to gain venous access to administer medications to aid the heart and functioning, i.e. ephedrine? If no, why not?
It's not indicated for trauma. It doesn't, if there's no blood to pump or the heart has stopped pumping, increasing how fast the heart pumps with ephedrine would do nothing. So in trauma, it is not indicated.
Was ACLS protocol followed?
Yes.
Was there a physician patched in?
No, there's no patch required for cessation of treatment. It is part of our ability and part of our training to determine non-viability.
Are fire department personnel allowed to call a patient's death?
Yes. However, time of
You don't
death
call
is
time
a
of death.
different thing if
Yeah.
that's what you're asking. In other words, we are allowed to stop
To determine the end of
attempting
treatment.
to do life-saving
Correct.
treatment if it's merely a recovery. So does that answer?
It does.
Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have if the defense, first of all, let me check. Are there any other juror questions for this witness? I don't see any.
You see
The
how
defense can
interesting
follow
that
based
is
on
when
those
a
questions,
juror asks a
If you
question?
want.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, how about the
No
state?
questions, Your Honor.
Just a couple.
I have one question, Your Honor. Can I brush my hair? I feel like it's my right to be pretty. I'd like to brush my hair, and I would like to refresh my lip gloss, sir, if it would be okay with you.
Sir, when would you use ephedrine?
Well, if you had just asystole, but it was a cardiac-based code. If the heart had stopped due to some disease state, electric shock, for instance, you would use epi. Are you saying epinephrine
Yeah,
is what
yeah.
you're saying, right?
When you're looking at whether or not to push drugs to try to get the heart to restart, you're looking at the type of trauma that caused the heart to stop.
And how long it's been since the heart stopped.
So in a place where you said there is trauma, meaning like a gunshot wound?
Like a hole in the vessel, yes.
So that is treated differently than if someone has a heart attack and
Yes, yes.
you were asked about.
These are all algorithms, protocols that are given for us to operate
Look at
on
this fool.
scenes under medical control to whoever asked about the patch.
Look at this fool.
What is,
Look at this fool. You know what she's doing right now? So she's looking over at the real attorney, who I don't think the real attorney is helping her. I don't think the real attorney likes her, right? I think she's looking over there to see what the real attorney's doing, and then watch. She's gonna start making a list of all the things that makes Lori pretty.
then the ACLS protocol?
Advanced cardiac life support. And it's just, again, it's
All
a flow
the
chart.
things that
Are there obvious signs of death?
Lori, a pretty
Yes.
girl.
Stop CPR.
I should stop.
So
I
here,
should stop.
we
being
followed that protocol and
snarky.
stopped CPR.
Yes, ma'am. CCR technically, but yes.
Lori, you have no idea what you're
were
writing.
asked
you
about-
imbecile.
Contacting a physician,
You know what she wrote?
patch or something.
She wrote, I hate Kay. I hate K. And then she drew some little lines around it. Maybe she did a little rainbow and a flower. I hate K.
For
A dollar
cessation
sign.
of treatment.
Right.
Are there times where you do patch in with a physician?
Sure. You would patch en route, not for a code. You would patch en route and give a doctor, or actually it would be a nurse answering the phone, but you would let them know what you have and what treatment you have given and what treatment you are going to give en route to their facility to continue care. We are primarily to stabilize and turn over the patient, making it more viable for a rescue.
So when you terminate treatment because a patient is not viable, you cannot revive them, you don't need to talk to a doctor about that.
No, you need to call in that you did it. So there would have been a patch
Into the ER.
after that.
They patch
but you don't
them
have to
into the
call
ER.
in to cease treatment.
So you don't need a blessing by a doctor to stop life-saving treatment.
No.
Well, no, we have the blessing through our certifications and
Correct.
through our training. So we are operating under a doctor's license at any time we are operating. So that doctor or this group of doctors usually understands our training level and agrees
there's
to
inherent trust.
trains us to make that decision. Yes.
And so ultimately, as a paramedic, you have the authority to use that protocol to determine when you are no longer able to revive or
Yes.
save the life of a patient.
Cease life-saving functions. Yes.
And that's what you did here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no other questions.
All right, you can step down. We're going to take our lunch recess. I'll remind the jury of the admonition. We will resume at 1:30 p.m.
Okay, now one of the reasons that this judge appears to be so irritated and frustrated is that they're getting about 45 minutes of testimony in the morning and 45 minutes of testimony in the afternoon because of Lori.
As the scene agent, but he went from scene agent to expert so that he can give his opinion. And I don't think it is relevant that he can give his opinion at this time. We weren't allowed to have enough time to get someone to rebut his professional opinion.
I hate you, Judge.
Based on his training and experience, he was going to make an opinion about one of the gunshots being fired, possibly from the victim laying in a prone position.
As a firearms expert, and we haven't had a CV on how he's a firearms expert.
All the other girls are going. Everybody gets to go, and I should go too. And I hate you, Daddy, because you won't let me go. I want to go to the movie too. All my friends are going. I want to go too. She's literally arguing with this judge like he's her father, and she's just been denied going on a Friday night outing with her girls.
There was information on his training and experience contained within that 15.1 statement. I think additionally, questions about whether or not the extent of his training, the extent of his experience would probably go more toward the weight that the jury should give it rather than the credibility. Rather than the admissibility of it. You're free to cross-examine him on his training experience or lack thereof. But at this time, I was inclined to allow him to testify.
But it's not fair. It's not fair that you're going to let him. That's not fair. Can you see my hair? Judge, do you see how pretty my hair is?
Look at my eyes, Judge. I'm a pretty girl. Don't you see that? Why aren't you doing what I want you to do? You are a terrible judge. And I want another judge. I want another judge so that someone that can see my pretty hair and my pretty eyes. I don't like you.
I'm hesitant to use the term as a full expert, but he has training and experience that could assist the jury in making a determination one way or the other based on.
Yeah, Mary. She's got some
that,
serious eyebrows going on.
And he can't do that just as the scene expert or as the detective that was there?
Well, I think he could based on his training and experience.
Why do we have to call him an expert? That's not fair. If you call him an expert, then the judge is going to believe him. I don't want the jury to believe him.
Do that. I'm hesitant to call him an expert per se in the sense of a scientific type expert with scientific type testing, which requires more foundational evidence on someone's expertise. This type of testimony, I think, is testimony that a lot of people that have experience with guns could have an opinion on. Again, you can cross-examine him on his knowledge, his training, his experience, etc.
But will it be given to the jury that he's an expert in firearms?
See,
Yes
I
or no?
told you that's what she was
I don't
worried
know. I
about.
guess I'll have to see how the testimony, what kind of foundation is laid for that by the state. All right. Anything the state want to supplement your argument or your
Okay,
15?
I want y'all to take a minute here. Look at her hair. What is it? 404. Look at her hair. Look at the curls. All right. And now go back. Here we go. Look. Okay, now we're going to go back to the beginning of the trial. Okay, just stay with me on this. What do you notice? What do you notice? Someone say it. During the lunch break, she curled her hair. She curled her hair during the lunch break. During a murder trial. It's incredible. It is incredible. So that's what you're looking at right there. That's toward the, like court have been going for like an hour and 15 minutes. Okay. See how they're kind of flat? And then right after lunch. She curled her hair, y'all. You think I'm being snarky. You think I'm being a heifer. I'm calling it like I see it. Well, the judge isn't listening to me. I need you to curl my hair. Lori, I'm an attorney. I'm not going to curl your hair. You are here to support me. You're the supporting attorney. Curl my hair. Curl it. Curl it. I've got to make that judge listen to me. I need to look pretty for the jury. Curl my hair. Look at that. Can you believe that? It's crazy.
His knowledge, his training, his experience, etc.
But will it be given to the jury that he's an expert in firearms? Yes or no?
Yes, Lori.
I don't know. I guess I'll have to see how the testimony, what kind of foundation is laid for that by the state.
Right, Mary? There it is. No one can
All right.
resist
Anything
my
the state want
beautiful,
to supplement your
luscious
argument or your
curls.
15.1 motion?
Your Honor, no. The defense was able to interview Dan Coons on March 21st of 2025. So after that was noticed, so they were given the opportunity to question him regarding any of his expertise or not. And really the state filed that in an abundance of caution. I think that he a normal
Hey,
scene
boss
agent
lady, good to see
with
you. Thank you for
sufficient
being here.
information and knowledge and training might be able to discuss trajectory, but we wanted to make it clear that he did have that sufficient background, training, and expertise to do that.
Are you planning on eliciting testimony that an opinion as to which shot was first as opposed to which shot was second?
Only in that,
I'm going to say this. I have a bit of a dark perspective on this. I think it's different than what this prosecution is putting forth. And nobody knows the truth except Lori, right? Because everybody else is dead. I think Tylee knew the truth. I think Tylee knew what happened. And I don't think Tylee ever held a bat up against her stepfather. That didn't happen. But I see this a little different. I kind of think that perhaps the first gunshot was the one that went into the abdomen. Maybe the reason that it was sort of like from the low, it went in like from the abdomen up toward the shoulders, right? So the gun would have had to have been pointing up a little bit. I kind of think that, you know, maybe either he dove trying to get away from Alex, or maybe Alex was sort of crouched down behind the door jamb. And so when Charles walked in to say, hey, you know, I'm here to get JJ, he shot him then. So from a low, he was already down like on his knees, hiding kind of where he wouldn't see him, and shot him from around the corner. And then the next shot straight through the heart. Right? But that's pure speculation on my part. It's just a guess, nothing more, just a guess.
he did attend the autopsy, so he does also understand both that information, the shored wound, which goes
The
into
shot
play
that
in his
killed him
determination of
was the
trajectory,
shot to the
as
heart.
well as
It
that the other shot
literally
went through the
blew up the heart.
victim's heart. So I
Your
think
Honor,
he can say that what he believes the trajectory for each shot is. I guess if someone wants to argue that he was shot in the heart first, or laying on the ground first and then got up and was shot a second time through the heart, that I don't think that he has that expertise to say that perhaps someone couldn't do that.
Well, I think the point I'm getting at is no one observed it that is going to testify to the shooting as far as I know so far. And that I don't even think your medical expert could definitively say this was shot 1 and this was shot 2. So that's fair cross-examination. But other than that, I'm going to allow his testimony. If you have a foundational objection or any other sort of hearsay objection or evidentiary objection, you can make it depending on what the question is.
Okay. I mean, I don't really understand how the trajectory is relevant to conspiracy, so I would like to make that objection. We're stipulating that there was 2 shots.
Okay,
Your Honor, just for the record, it's because the defense has noticed self-defense.
right. All right. Let's bring
No,
on Jan.
I just did my best damn Lori impersonation. Crap. I got to redo it. Okay. Remember when she said, excuse me, Judge, I don't know how this has anything to do with conspiracy to commit murder. Like, what does it matter about the trajectory if we are talking about conspiracy to commit murder? Judge. Okay, now here it comes. Excuse me, Lori. So as one female to another, speaking the language that you can understand, so some of the trajectory might suggest conspiracy because your brother, he shot him first, and once Charles is incapacitated and laying on the floor, then you would take the gun from your brother and you would have to shoot him in the heart, and then neither one would want to go to jail, so you don't tell on each other because both of you shot him and then he died, so you don't know which one of you really killed him. And it makes it like, if you and your friend Melanie, if you go to Sephora and you buy like really expensive makeup, but then you don't have enough money, so you buy one thing at Sephora and you get a Sephora back, and then you go Walgreens and then you buy Maybelline, which is cheap makeup, and then you put your Maybelline makeup in your Sephora bag, and then you just tell everybody you went to Sephora to buy your makeup. And then everybody thinks that you just are rich, and then everything's okay. And it's the same thing as shooting Charles. You shoot one time, Alex shoots another time, and then you just keep the secret. Just like you have to keep the secret about not shopping at Sephora because you don't have any money. You and your friends just buy Maybelline, but you lie. And that's how the trajectory, that's how it has to do with conspiracy. Lori, your hair is pretty.
Yeah, why don't you do that? Hey, I was meant to ask Trey how to move that. Hey, will you move this podium back? Because we're not going to need it until closing argument. Move this back over there before we bring it.
Oh, wait, I missed something. What are they doing? Okay. Are we taking another break? Why are we taking another break? Because Lori needs to refresh her curls.
Active with the Chandler Police Department. Specifically, the last assignment was robbery homicide unit.
How long did you work for the Chandler Police Department?
Just over 30 years.
30
Can you walk us
years.
through your different assignments at Chandler Police Department?
Sure.
Okay, so
After
he is
my basic training at the
aggressive
academy,
guy,
I was assigned
okay?
to patrol.
Oh,
I did
here-
that for a little bit. And while I was in patrol, I was
Page here, that's the actual.
Okay, so this is the actual house. And this shows the location of Charles, where his feet were, etc. All right. And because this is about whether Lori is smart or not, we're going to go ahead through here.
To pull the cartridge out, and the ejector kicks the cartridge out.
Also in this photo, there was this
Still talking
orange
about
bag.
crime scene.
And you had told us that inside of it, we can kind of see the corner here.
Outside of that suite, but able to communicate, was that the firearm ejected the casings to the right, striking the wall where that has the curve there, and bounced back towards the west wall. The projectile would have continued on a relatively straight path and embedded itself in the baseboard at the other end of the room.
So would that have put the shooter somewhere in this area?
Yes.
I thought that was Lori.
And so that to you seemed consistent with one of the shots having gone through him and ended up what we see in Exhibit 20 over here in the baseboard.
Outside of that suite, but able to communicate with the staff. There's a window outside of that suite, but able to communicate.
Being laying on the ground when he was shot.
Very much so in the position that you see him.
Yeah, I don't want to show him.
And an autopsy as a detective.
So at the or will
Shoot, why won't it go
we
there?
We have the ability to observe,
Lori.
to get a different view. Say the feet are toward way.
I was gonna say inches.
Yes.
Not feet, but inches.
Correct. Say the feet are overhead. All everything that's able to is the on the.
Tell us what it means. And when you were at can you tell us what it means when you attend an autopsy as a detective?
So as a detective, we go to the medical examiner on the date that they're going to do the autopsy. There is the autopsy suite itself where the doctors and technicians work, but able to communicate with the staff. So we can communicate either by a phone that's on the wall or
usually
they'll come around and talk with us. We have the ability to observe everything that transpires. There's even a camera overhead that we can manipulate to get a different view. Say the feet are toward way.
I was gonna say inches.
Weird. I wonder why they cut that off. So earlier, I will say this. Earlier, when you were watching this live, you could actually see the living room and you could see Charles. Like they didn't have it blurred out or anything. And to be fair, for you and I, we didn't know Charles. It's not really traumatizing. It's not like a gory scene. There's not like a lot of blood or anything like that. It just looks like somebody's laying on the ground sleeping, right? But maybe that's what they cut out. So somehow we missed the transition of Lori. Prosecutor finishing, now Lori.
Feet, but inches.
Correct.
And so would that be a normal trajectory from hitting the wall to where they landed?
I am not surprised by seeing that, yes.
According to how fast they would be going. How fast does a casing come out of a gun? I don't really know.
I've never chronographed a casing coming out of a gun. I've only chronographed bullets.
That's right.
So I have.
Notice her curls are nearly gone.
No idea how fast a casing comes out. It doesn't come out with enough force to really hurt anybody.
So there weren't any divots in the wall or anything like that because.
There could be microscopic divots, but it'd be very difficult to find.
And you didn't find any that were visible to the eye?
Nothing that caught my eye, no.
So weird that she's so focused on the location of the casing.
So were you there at the time when Alex did the walkthrough?
Yes, ma'am.
And so you were there. Did he describe where he was standing?
Sustained.
Did he show you physically where he was standing?
Sustained.
Was there a wall right next to where he was standing?
Sustained.
Your Honor, I'm not asking for the truth of the matter asserted. I'm saying he observed this person standing in that place.
Well, you can ask him if he observed Mr. Cox standing in that place.
Okay. Did you observe Mr. Cox standing in the room where he told you that the gun was?
I observed him standing in the vicinity that he indicated.
And was that in the hallway or in the main room?
I'm going to object to hearsay. It's not testimonial,
Right.
but it is still hearsay.
If the question is in relation to Mr. Cox showing or recreating or demonstrating, then the objection is sustained.
Where did you observe Mr. Cox standing when he went through the walkthrough to?
Well, that's the testimony that I'm saying is a form of hearsay. So please ask a different question.
I'm trying to understand, Your Honor.
Oh
So
my God.
what the witness observed is not relevant?
Lori,
I didn't say that. Let's do a sidebar.
Okay.
Lori.
I would love that.
She's cracking fractured fairy tales. You can feel it and see it. This judge is over this woman. I have a question at some point. Does the judge not have a place to say to this woman, even if only in sidebar, you are simply exploiting the judicial system and enjoying the spotlight? Maria, I kind of think that has already been said to her. I do think that they tried to get her to do the right thing. But, Judge, you're not treating me with kid leather gloves. I'm a pretty girl. Yeah, right. It's silly. No, there's a problem here, y'all. The problem is, and maybe this is what she's counting on, I don't know. But the problem is that if you have a real defense attorney, these are educated people. And so they're not making mistakes that could come back later for appeal, right? The judge runs the risk, if he lets his frustration and aggravation show, then that provides Lori an appealable offense, that the judge had a personal vendetta against her, that the judge was acting out his own negative personal feelings of her, rather than simply being a trier of the rules of law. So the judge is in a very difficult position. Of all the people in this room, I think the judge has got it worse. She doesn't
Detective
know.
Coons, where would you place the shooter standing in that room?
I would place the shooter in the area of where the curve of the wall was and the kind of the hallway
Listen to
entry
this. Listen to her
area,
answers.
somewhere in that general area.
So would you have it, what direction would you place him standing? Facing, I mean, not standing, but facing.
For which shot?
The first one.
The first one in a more easterly direction.
Mhm. And the second?
In a more northern direction with a slight deviation to the east.
And see, this is one of the reasons that this guy just said is one of the reasons that I think that maybe, like in wild speculation, maybe Alex was like diving, like to hide, to get away from the gunshot. He didn't get far, obviously, but his body seems like it was kind of in motion. Then what I think was the second shot, it went just perfectly straight down through the heart, perfectly.
So would you have him stepping forward?
No.
Is that what you're saying?
No.
What direction would you have him moving?
He's not moving.
I didn't say the shooter moved.
The person who's dead was moving, Lori.
Saying that he shot from a different angle?
No.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so you think he was standing in the same location?
I don't know that.
You see how this witness is not going to elaborate. He is going to, they don't want to give her any information. They all hate this woman that wiped out her entire family.
So according to where you put him standing with the first shot, the casing bounced off of the wall to the right and landed to the left.
Correct.
And then where you have
Look at
him
her
facing,
leaning
where
like
you have him
special.
standing in the second shot, the same thing happened.
Anything you ever wanted to know about Lori is right here. Like right here in this picture. She's leaned on her elbow. She's got her hand up to her face. She's holding a pen in her hand. She is only focusing on what she looks like. There is no substance in her brain or her heart and soul. She lives her entire life by appearances. There's no connection to anyone. She doesn't feel love for anyone. Everything in her life is transactional. Every single relationship she's ever had, including with her children and her family members, is what can you do for me? How can I exploit this person to get the things I want? She's just playing a role. She's just pretending to look like an attorney.
Approximately, yes.
And how far apart were those casings found?
I don't have the specific measurement of how far apart they were. They were a few feet.
So they're a few feet apart.
Yes.
So if he was standing in the same place, would they be a few feet apart or would they be closer?
It depends on a different amount of things, like how was the gun being held? Was it canted to the side? Was it not? What the angle was. Could the shooter have moved? A little, but it would have been in the same general vicinity.
But you said he didn't move, according to you.
I said I didn't say he moved.
So he could have moved because they were more than a foot apart, the casings found.
A little, yes. Would have been in the same general area.
So he could have taken a couple steps.
Nope.
Perhaps.
He didn't say
Could
that.
have slid the body sideways.
It could have been
Anything
Charles
that
moving.
you can do to the body, it could have been done in a short area.
And is that common in, I don't know with shooting, if is that common with someone to shoot once and then move and shoot again?
Oh my God, Lori.
Speculation, relevance,
Thank
I'll
you.
sustain it on speculation.
In your experience as a firearms expert who fires a lot of guns, right? Would that be a common thing to do?
Objection.
Objection is to speculation as to when, where, circumstances.
All right, I'll sustain the objection as to speculation.
Oh, put your glasses on, Lori.
Let's talk about stippling.
Oh.
The first shot, according to you, had stippling. Is that correct?
Nope.
No,
It did not have any stippling.
none was observed.
And the second shot,
None was observed.
no stippling was observed.
No.
Correct.
Sorry, Lori.
Is that what's in the ME's report?
I believe so.
That there was no stippling? Can I have a minute, Your Honor?
Look at all their faces. Look at them. They're all just disgusted by this whole thing. Man, this is sad. She even robs Charles of his dignity in death with this nonsensical display. So sad.
When you were observing the autopsy,
Short break.
Up, short break. All right. Okay. And I think, are we pretty much done there? Let's see. There wasn't much left.
Officers had learned, we learned that there was a body inside the residence, and we came up with an investigative plan.
Who did that debriefing to you?
I don't think anybody specifically ran the debriefing. We, as detectives, gathered around the patrol officers, and they informed us basically of what they had seen and what they had been told.
And who were those detectives with you?
Oh my gosh.
Well, Detective Duncan would have been there with me. Detective Moffett would have been there. I didn't take a roll call of all the detectives there. Possibly Detective Inclin. I don't know.
Okay. And then where did you proceed after that? Debriefing.
Well, after the debriefing, I provided the information of what I had learned to Detective Kaminsky, who is still back at the police department, and gave him the information necessary to request a search warrant for the residence.
And then what?
We waited.
To get the search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
To have it issued?
To see if the judge would issue it, yes.
And how long did that take?
Don't believe we got word back from the courts until it would have been probably between 11:30, 11:45, and then we made entry shortly thereafter.
So is it your protocol that you can't enter until the search warrant is issued?
That is what we do once the scene has been made secure, yes.
Okay. And then when you entered, who entered with you?
Myself,
Lori,
the crime scene
I have a
tech.
question here. What does any of this have to do with conspiracy to commit murder? You're on trial, not law enforcement. Try to remember that.
We were the initial ones. I think Detective Duncan might have come in with us as well. But that would have been the extent of the initial entry.
Do you know the name of the crime scene tech that was with you?
Jordan,
Is that the last name or first name?
the last name.
And then what did you do after that?
Well, after that, we continued to go with our normal process of having photographs taken. I did the lizard Q spheres. I completed getting information necessary for the diagram that was presented and continued to just do our job.
So is that protocol to do photographs first?
That would be our protocol, yes.
And then what do you do after that?
Oh my gosh.
I know that you were searching for the blood in all the rooms. When did that occur?
That occurs after the initial photographs are done, and then we can walk through and look in the particular areas that's been photographed already.
Okay, so the photographs are finished and then you guys kind of walk through.
Or at least finished in an area that we can actually walk through, yes.
They didn't make any mistakes, Lori.
And then when did you set up the tripod after, how long after that?
So the tripod was set up after the area had been photographed. So that way I wasn't interfering with anything. And that way we're not having the tripod in our original photographs.
Oh, right, makes sense.
Oh, good. So glad it makes
And do you
sense
think,
to the
so
bimbo.
when Detective Duncan was with you going through the house?
I believe he was there, yes.
So it was basically the two of you or three of you going through room by room, or were you split up, or how does that work?
We would have divided and conquered a little bit to make the search a little bit more expedient. But that, again, you're slowed to the time frame of what it takes to do the overall photographs.
So the photographs took about how long?
I don't ever look at my watch to see how long it takes because it's a big house, as you're aware. And I let the crime scene tech do their job. I don't push them and tell them that TikTok, there's nothing like that. It's do your job, we'll follow along.
Okay, and you guys started that process at about 11:45?
I think the actual time would have been closer to noon that we would have started that process.
And about how long did it take to go through the whole house, and about how long was that process?
Again, for me, I don't document how long it takes for any particular task because each scene is different. I just focus on doing the tasks. I rarely take a look at my watch to see how much time I'm spending on it because I want to do the job. I don't care about the time it takes.
And you did not pick up any of the evidence that was marked. That wasn't part of your protocol, is to take the evidence into custody. Is that correct?
Most of the evidence I did not pick up, correct.
And whose job is that?
We usually defer to the crime scene techs to do that. There are times that we will assist them with doing it depending on what the item is.
So that day, was it Jordan who did that? Was he the crime scene tech that took that evidence?
She would have been the one that was collecting at our direction, yes.
And so you kind of pointed out as the detectives, and then they pick it up and...
Correct, because they're trained how to handle evidence, how to package evidence, how to process. So we work in tandem together. We're the investigative body, and they're the scientific portion of it.
Makes sense.
Makes
Okay.
sense.
Did you, what time do you think that you, well, let's ask this. After you're done with the photos, and then you're done with checking the house, and all of the evidence is picked up and logged, then what else do you do at the house? What else did you do at the house that day?
Well, you just bundled that up into like tiny little package, but it took a long time to get to the point that you're talking about. So my day pretty much involved the scene. As far as ancillary jobs to go somewhere else or do other things, now my day was pretty much spent there on Four Peaks.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh
So,
my God. This is hard to watch, isn't it?
when did you leave the residence then?
We secured from the house sometime between 4 and 4:30 p.m.
And then you had your pool party.
And what other tasks did I miss that you accomplished during that 12 o'clock to the 4:30 time? I just don't know what you were doing in there. I'm just wondering.
Well, we identify
I was just
the
wondering.
proper or the
I
evidence.
don't know what you were doing in there. I was just wondering. This is so offensive to the real life attorneys and judge and jury. This woman is incorrigible.
Items. We're looking for other evidence items. I am still doing the diagram, so measurements need to be done. We have to wait for the medical examiner to arrive because we can't do anything with the body until they show up. And then once they show up, we pretty much stop with the other projects until we can focus on the body and get the body out of there, because there aren't very many investigators for the medical examiner in the county. So we don't want to tie them up longer than we have to. And then we'll resume searching or identifying information, evidence, collecting it, and working our way to a conclusion where we can leave the scene.
So sad.
So after searching the whole entire house, did you guys search the backyard at all?
It was searched.
Did you do that, or did someone else do
I
that?
did not.
Who would have been in the backyard searching?
It would have either been another detective or we would have asked an officer to do it.
And what would they be looking for?
Any blood evidence, anything to indicate based upon the information we had of the event that took place inside that house.
So when you made your assessment, you were able to leave after that assessment was made, that everything was accomplished?
What?
Oh, what assessment
Right.
are you talking about?
That all the evidence was gathered and collected?
That I was satisfied that we had collected what we needed to collect?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you.
If we could just have Ms. Vallow move her reports away from the, it's showing.
Oh, is it showing?
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, let's just turn that off until we need it. Thank you.
So you stated earlier that the type of weapon that was found was a .45 caliber?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that a semi-automatic?
It is.
Oh my gosh.
How is that different from like a
Lori?
revolver? What's the difference between that?
The build itself, I like to use simplistic terms when I describe what a revolver looks like.
Okay. What is that, in the words of Lori Vallow, what does that have to do with conspiracy to commit murder? A revolver versus a automatic? Like, what are you getting at? So, not going to listen to any more of her nonsense because it doesn't change. It stays that same awful, boring, terrible line of questioning.
Expert on the stippling patterns. That is something that we would have to send to the lab for. And what they would do is they would test it with witness panels at different distances to give that information. I mean, usually the medical exam contact.
So would you be surprised if he said 2 to 4 feet?
If that's what he says.
That if they're stippling, then the gun would have to be 2 to 4 feet.
It's possible, but I wouldn't hold my hat on that. No, I would have to have the gun tested for that.
Okay. And
Is
so,
this a good spot to break for the evening?
sure, Your Honor.
I mean, I'm not cutting you off. If you want to ask a few more questions, that's fine.
Nope, that's fine.
All right, we'll take our evening recess. Members of the jury, please remember the admonition. I'll remind you to specifically avoid any outside information, any information about this case. Specific
It's coming, isn't it?
Members of the jury, please remember the
That's fine.
It's
Cutting
getting
spot to break
close to her
for the-
pulling a point.
Sure, Your Honor.
I mean,
Is this gun tested for that?
Well, listen. Okay.
I would have to have the gun tested.
Okay. I don't agree with you. And I've never shot a gun before, or maybe I did, but I think you're lying. I don't believe you. Yeah, I do. Listen to how curt and short she is with the judge.
Tested for that.
Okay.
Listen.
And so,
is this a good spot to break for the evening?
sure, Your Honor.
I mean, I'm not,
Sure. Sure it is. Yeah, you're the judge. Yeah, right? You're the judge. How dare you interrupt me? But now I can't even continue because now the jury sees you disrespecting me. Sure. Yeah, it's a good time. Sure.
is this a good spot to break for the evening?
Sure, Your Honor.
I mean, I'm not cutting you off. If you want to ask a few more questions, that's fine.
Nope, that's fine.
Nope. Of course you were cutting me off. Nope. We're good. I'll just go sit my ass down and be quiet because that's what you all want me to do anyway. You're the boss. It's coming. Tick tock. It won't be long. We may not even get to next week. My prediction was she will lose her mind next week. I might be wrong. This little thing right here, it doesn't sound like it was a lot, but you got to think about what's not spoken. There was a lot of energy behind nope. Right? Think about it. It's coming. It's going to happen. There you go. All right. Now, real quick, because I got to go. I got a little girl waiting on me. Today, there is a very important hearing in the prosecution of Brian Kohberger for the murders of Kaylee, Ethan, Xana, and Madison. That is a very important hearing. Very, very, very important hearing. The outcome of that hearing could change everything. All right. So we got a lot going on today. And mostly, I just hope you guys have a great, awesome, wonderful, very fine day.
Well, I'm sitting in my chair late at night, watching crime unfold under the pale moonlight. From the darkest corners, stories unfold. True crime jewels, she's brash and she is bold. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From missing kids in Tennessee to angry husbands named Barry. True crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. From missing people to twisted minds, we're unraveling secrets old buried tried to hide. Every clue, every twist and turn. In the world of crime, there's always more to learn. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep into the mysteries that never sleep. From Christopher's anger to Stephen Fisher's lies, the truth is calling and justice won't be denied. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. True Crime Jewels on the YouTube streets. Lights are low, suspense is high. We're chasing truth, we spot every lie. Step into the darkness, hold on tight. Two flashlights out there in the dead of night. On the YouTube screen, we're digging deep. Barry Morphew's case is high. A boy in Tennessee won't be left behind. From the coldest cases to the ones that shine, true crime's calling and we're taking the time. So grab a seat, don't miss a beat. This True Crime Jewels got what you need. We're always watching Barry and waiting for the truth. In the world of crime, we discuss the truth. So hit that play and join the ride on this true crime journey. Join Jewels of Thought and our gemstone family.